Hello viewers, it's Tuesday evening. It's that time for the Tonight Show with Afzal Akram, and we're on Venus TV today. And for our regular viewers, you'll know that this is the third part of our political program. For the last 3 weeks, we've had the Lib Democrats on talking about their election manifesto and what it means for you if you were to vote for them. Last week we spoke about the Labour Party's manifesto, and this week with my studio guests, who I'll introduce to you shortly, we'll be talking about the Conservative Party's manifesto and what goodies they have to offer you as the public if you were to choose to vote for them. It's important to say that there are other parties taking part in this election as well, like the Green Party, UKIP, Brexit, and a whole heap of independents as well. So if I have missed anyone out, I do apologise. But as viewers, you can go onto the Election Commission website and get details and manifesto details about all the candidates from these parties and also the independents. But we will be talking about the Conservative Party manifesto. But before we do that, I hope you are going to, and I know you've been promising me you're going to use your vote on Thursday. Doesn't matter how windy it is, doesn't matter snow, doesn't matter about rain, you have to use your vote. And use your vote for the party that you feel is going to actually deliver services that are going to be right for you and your family. I think the days of tribal loyalty are gone. You know, I've always voted for Party A, so I'm always going to vote for Party A. Or my dad and mum's always voted for Party B, I'm always going to vote for Party B. Yeah, those days are gone. Okay, we need to look at the manifestos. As a community, we need to start looking at manifestos. We need to start looking at what is each party promising to do for us. And for me, actually, the most important thing is me and my family. Not what's good for my neighbour on the right, not what's good for my neighbour on the left, or for my friends, yeah? You know, are your policies going to be right for me and my family first and foremost? And if that's the case, then you've got my vote. As simple as that for me. So please do look at that and go and say, you know, really look on the website, see what the policies are. It's very easy in the current climate of where we are, you know, on social media everywhere, we get lots of stuff thrown in. Some is accurate, some is fake as well. Go onto the party's websites and look at their actual manifestos, because that is what they're promising you. And then you know what the beauty is, and I can say this as a former politician, I can say this, the beauty is that you then hold the parties and the politicians to account. Because if they don't deliver what they promised to deliver, then you know what? There will be another election. And guess who's in charge at election time? Yes, it's us, the public, we're in charge, and we exercise our vote. But anyway, enough from me. Let's talk to our guests, see who we have with us. First, we have Julian with us. Julian, welcome.
So,
okay, we also have Dr. Anwara. And if it's okay, I'm going to call you Anwara through the show. Is that okay?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. And we also have Dr. Nashaba. And in your case, it will be Nashaba all the way through the show. Is that okay?
Of course.
Great, thank you. Well, look, thank you for taking time away from your campaigning. I know the election's only 2 days to go and you're very busy out there. I really do appreciate it. But here's your chance now today to tell our viewers on what you guys, and when I say you guys, I'm talking about the Conservative Party, have got to offer. Why should they vote for you? And you know, when you mention Conservatives, Julian, I'm probably going to start with you as you're on my left here. One thing comes to mind, and that's Boris saying, let's get Brexit done. What does let's get Brexit done mean?
Right, okay, well, he says let's get Brexit done a lot, and he wants to repeat it because in politics you've got to repeat the message because it's an important one. Let's get Brexit done, but the second part of that is let's unleash Britain's potential. All right, so it's a joint thing. Okay, now we all know, well, you know, with Brexit, we know what the historical position has been. We all know what the story is. That the big vote in 2016, the country voted by well over 1.5 million votes to leave the EU.
That was a 52-48%.
Exactly, that was the split. So there we had that vote in 2016, and we spent 3 years and extended the period of transition, or the period of discussion rather, and a deal was voted on 3 times in Parliament and rejected 3 times in Parliament, and this was beginning to look like a bit of a joke. All right. So what we've got now, Boris comes in as Prime Minister and renegotiates a new deal with the EU in less than a month, goes and does it, and if you notice the fantastic relationship he had with the EU and the fantastic cooperation and the spirit of that, negotiated that deal very, very quickly, and there it is. So we've got this deal, we call it oven ready, but it is actually the divorce deal that we are going to, if we come to power, we're going to put that through, get that through by the end of January, which then allows us to leave the EU, come out of all its political structure and start negotiating a new and really mutually beneficial trade deal with the EU. And this is what I find very exciting, because we can do it. We're going to do it in 1 year, by the end of 2020. And the reason we're going to do it is because the EU wants it as well. And the EU wants it, and we want it for two reasons. One of them is that we want to continue trading with each other, because we're big markets. We want to continue that fluid trading with each other. And we want certainty for people and for business as well. We want to know where we are, where we stand, and get on with it and get Brexit done.
Now, you sound very confident, as is Boris, that you're going to get this new trade deal done in a year.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at past trade deals and you look at what everyone else say, they're saying it's going to take longer than a year. Why are you so confident that you can get this done in a year?
Yeah. Well, yeah, trade deals that have taken a long time to discuss, it's true, and in past times, but those are countries that are starting from very different positions and having to negotiate everything. But we, of course, we're starting from a position of alignment, where we're in the same systems. We're starting with a position which is very, very close to each other.
So just for our viewers, when you talk about alignment, because I know as politicians you guys have this weird jargon speak at the UN. So one of my roles is to make sure our viewers understand what you're saying. So I'm going to stop you. Alignment, from my understanding, is that you have the same rules in place, same policies, the same everything that you're doing, weights and things and so on.
Yes, yes. Well, exactly, we do. And we're modern European nations as well, with exactly the same standards of democracy, the same standards of human rights, the same standards of law. I mean, they vary, of course.
Employment protection and so on.
Employment protection, all those things. They are there to start with, and we have so much fluidity at the moment, so it's a good place to start. And so it's not written in stone anywhere that a trade deal takes 10 years to discuss and negotiate. It can be done very quickly if you've got goodwill on either side, and I believe we do.
And what are the benefits of Brexit? And you know, we say Brexit now. I mean, I talk to lots of people, and people say, well, you know, my friend said this is the beginning; it's not the end of Brexit, and so on. And other people say, well, we're going to be out of in January, and that's Brexit done. In your view, where does Brexit stop and start, and how long is it going to take before we can say Brexit is completed?
Yeah. Well, Brexit is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not a flick of a switch, and it is a complicated negotiation. And we've been through that. We've done it. The first stage, of course, is the divorce deal that has to be done that has to be negotiated, presented to Parliament, and voted through. As I said, if we're in power, voted through by the end of January, and that's what we're all working towards at the moment. Okay, and then we start working on the free trade deal. But what's the benefit of this? Well, one of the benefits of this is that we'll have a settled situation with the EU, and this is very important. I mean, I've lived in, my political experience goes back to, let's say, you know, the 80s, right the way through the 90s and the noughties, and right the way up to now. And I've had this itching and worry about the EU all that time. And I want to get on to a new place where we've got a settled situation with the EU, and we can really, that sees us forward for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years on. And I think that would be a great thing to do. What it also does, it leaving the EU means that we actually take control, and we hear this all the time, take back control of all our own systems. We're completely in control of our own judiciary, we're completely in control of our own laws and our own standards. And that's also what we want, that allows us to take back control of all that.
Okay. Well, hold that thought. I will come back to Brexit. There's a couple of things issued to that, but let's move on to one of our other topics. And if it's okay, I'm going to try and get one of you to answer. Otherwise, we'll probably be on one topic for the whole show. We've got very limited time, yeah? So bear with me. So, Anwara, moving over to you. I mean, the Conservative Party are known to be the party of the economy for business in the past, for lower taxes. I don't see any tax cuts in the manifesto.
No, I mean, I think we have to look at our record. So when we inherited, we became the government in coalition and then later in majority. In 2010, Labour left a note, Liam Byrne left a note saying there's no more money left. And at that time, for every £1 that we spent, we were borrowing £4, okay? And if you look at now, the current figure, so for every £1 we borrow, £1 we spend, we borrow £22. And the economy has grown by 19% since 2010. And we have more people in work. We have 1.8 million more women in work, which is really important as a woman. That's really important to me. And 3.7 million more people in work now. The economy has grown. We've triple locked, okay? We are a tax-cutting party, but we have to be sensible how we plan beyond Brexit. And so we've triple locked, you know, we have a triple lock where there will be no increase in the national insurance tax and VAT. We have also kept the same, you know, in terms of fuel duty, we've frozen that for the past 9 years, which has put more money into people's pocket. If you look at when Labour were in power, they got rid of the lower tax rate of 10 pence. We've now increased the threshold to 12,500. So for the first £12,500, it goes to your pocket. You don't pay any tax for that. And then if you look at pensioners, our elderly, we are really, we look after our elderly. There's a pensions triple lock. So you have a lock on the pensions as well as the other benefits such as bus passes and winter fuel allowance. And we can do that because we have a strong and steadily growing economy. And all the scaremongering when Brexit happened, oh, the economy's collapsed. Well, actually, we've proved it completely wrong. The Conservatives in government, whether we have a Brexit or not, we are the only party time and again that we are strong on economy. If you look at the last 100 years, we have been the most politically successful party, and the economy is always strong with us. And that's really important because as an NHS GP, I've worked in the NHS in the front line for 22 years. Strong public services are really important. I'm also a parent, so for me that's important. Education is important. And we can only have strong public services if we have a strong economy. It is the economy that matters at the end of the day. For us to govern and have a modern country that has modern systems in place, strong economy is absolutely vital to that.
Great, thank you for that. And
That's my little spiel done.
That's your little spiel done, yeah, okay. Well, we'll come back to more, and I've got a few more questions there, but I think it's time for a short break. So viewers, we're going to go into this break, so stay with us. When we come back, we've still got to talk about the NHS, education, immigration, a whole heap of other things as well. So stay tuned, and we shall see you shortly. And how they're offering raising the level of income that we earn before we get taxed to 12,500 in order to save us money as well. And we'll come back to that as well. But I want to, in this part of the show, move on to talking about the NHS. So Noshaba, if I can maybe ask you, as a doctor, obviously NHS is very close to you, as it is to Anwara as well. But, you know, what are you doing for the NHS that the other parties aren't going to do?
So let me share a brief history. NHS has been in existence for 71 years. Out of that, 44 years it's been under the Conservative government. This government has pledged 33.9 billion more into the NHS. Now that will be distributed with 4.6 million towards primary care, and that will include extra doctors, and we have pledged 6,000 more extra doctors. Also on top of that, 20,000 extra allied medical health professionals, which will be divvied up between primary care and secondary care. On top of that...
Can you tell us what allied health professionals are?
Allied health professionals, sorry. Again, this is a bit of a
medical
jargon. So this includes people like pharmacists,
okay.
Specialist nurses, radiographers, you know, other people that help run...
help doctors and nurses make us better, yeah?
Of course.
Great.
And then we've also pledged 50,000 nurses. Now, out of the 50,000 nurses, can I make this point clear?
You know what I'm going to ask you, don't you?
I know you're going to ask me that, and I'm ready for that after now. 31,500 are actually the extra new nurses. So out of that, again, I will give you more clarity on the numbers. So 31,500 are the new nurses, out of which 12,500 we will be recruiting from overseas. 5,000 nurses are already in apprenticeship programs, and 14,000 will be trained up using our bursary programs. So that makes a total figure of 31,500. The 18,500, which is left out of the 50,000, are nurses that are already working in the NHS, but these are the retention part of the nursing routes, because there are many nurses who feel quite disillusioned by NHS and actually have said that they may not necessarily want to work. So what we want to do is use the 18,500, which in January was around 12,500, but we've increased the number now to 18,500, and these are the nurses who are currently working with us, but we want to retain them within the NHS, making a total of 50,000. We already have 280,000 nurses working in the NHS.
Stop. Too many numbers, right? Let me just sort this out, because I don't know about you at home viewers, but you know these numbers are coming on very quick, and I want to make sure we get the right numbers. Right, 50,000. Let's stick to 50. So my understanding, Venus TV viewers' understanding, okay, is that 31,500 new nurses who are not in jobs at the moment will be recruited, some from abroad and some from here. Forget the exact numbers, some from abroad, some from here, and they will be in place over the term of the next parliament,
That's right.
However, in addition to the 31,500, you have another 18,500 nurses who will not be brand new nurses, but you're saying they're new because if you don't do anything, they would have left the NHS.
Exactly.
Yeah? And therefore you would have less at the end, but you are retaining them. Is that because you're going to be paying them extra money, more training, make better work? Why would these 18.5 stay in the NHS if your policies weren't going to be in place?
The point is that we do realise that nurses and doctors and other medical professionals are going well beyond, and we recognise that, you know, there are things that have happened over the years that, you know, maybe nursing at the moment, you know, we do need a lot of them, but they might not necessarily want to stick around in the national health. What we want to do is incentivise. One thing we are introducing or reintroducing is the bursaries, for instance, paying extra 5,000 per year per nursing qualifications, so that would help them to stay and actually practice nursing. So these are the kind of things that we are trying to do. We're trying to raise up the morale within our working environment, not just for nurses, but for all of the medical professionals. So that's part of the retention program in keeping those 18,500 nurses.
Okay, I understand.
Can
the
I just
50,000
add
figure now.
something too, with
Yeah.
due respect? I think we need to go back to the root cause of the problem. It takes 10 years to train a doctor. And when Labour left power in 2010, the shortage that we're suffering now is because of the shortage that they left behind. It's not our doing. We are going to open 5 more new medical schools. So in time, we should be able to fill that skill shortage with our own British trained doctors and nurses and allied healthcare professionals such as phlebotomists and so forth.
Well, I'm glad you've actually mentioned that, because part of me has been thinking that obviously if you're going to be coming out of Europe, Brexit happens, as you said, you're going to be creating all these new trade deals and so on, and opening ourselves to the rest of the world. We are looking to have to start training our own people again, because I know over the last 10, 20 years, when I was a young man, long time ago.
Still young?
Thank you. I'll invite you back on again, Anwara, definitely. You know, we used to have things like youth training schemes and all these people and young people who were trained and they had a route into, a vocational route into employment. And slowly as years and years have gone past, I've been in business myself, it was easier to recruit somebody from the European Union who had all the skills and sometimes were over-skilled for the job we wanted than employing our young people. I hope you are going to train these young people, our own young people, in order to take these jobs, and that's what you're talking about, the new medical colleges and the facilities to train the nurses.
And also, I mean, the superb thing in the manifesto is this maintenance grants for nurses, so that this is living expense. It's very expensive to train as a nurse, and you know, there will be £5,000, I believe.
Yes, yes,
£5,000 per student nurse, which is excellent.
But the other thing is, like Anwara mentioned, it does take up to 10 years to train a fully qualified doctor. So in the meantime, the points-based system will be useful, but because we're not just looking at EU, the world is our oyster, and we'll be looking at talent from all across the world.
Hold that thought, because I'm going to move to immigration in a little while, but I just wanted to ask something that's been in the news recently, probably to Anwara and Nashaba more so, because you're both in the NHS. You know, I've been looking at news since yesterday of this young boy on a hospital floor. Is that what happens in the NHS?
No. Definitely not. No, being a hospital doctor myself, to be honest, this is I have never, in my 15 years of a trained doctor, and before that, obviously 10 years prior to that, being a medical student, I have never ever seen that. So I'm sorry, yes, especially over winter pressures, and I'm sure all of us, I know myself that despite my campaigning, I am working flat out because I do not want to leave my hospital unattended because of the campaign. This is this is our Conservative beliefs. We will work, and we are continuing to work. And yes, there are pressures, but I have never seen that. I'm sorry, I'm sorry if this has happened to that boy, but in my experience, I have never come across anything like that.
Can I just add to what Nashaba said? I've been in the NHS for 22 years, and again, I did 10 years pre-becoming a doctor and worked in A&E. So I've seen it under Labour and I've seen it under Conservatives, and I've never seen that under any government. And it's not acceptable in modern Britain or any modern economy for that. However, can I add that we've now found out that the mother who put her child down, she took him off the trolley This is what's going around in the media, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but she actually took the child down from the trolley, put him on the floor, took the photos, and she sent those photos to social media and to media outlets. So the truth of that matter needs to we need to find that.
So just to clarify,
what needs to happen?
You're stating what you've heard on the news is not something you know.
I
yeah?
don't know that
Okay.
personally, but what needs to happen in such a scenario, a case investigation, which is called a serious untoward incident, needs to happen, because that is not acceptable to any one of us. It doesn't matter what side, whether you're blue, red, yellow, green. This is not acceptable. And a child would always be found. The mother can cradle the child in her lap, or any staff would have cradled the child. They would not put a child down on the floor. That's categorically not acceptable.
Okay, just linked to the NHS then, obviously social care is although they're separate things, but they are very linked,
close,
yeah?
yeah.
I mean, it says no one will sell their home to pay for care.
Yeah.
It was one of the things that you actually put in your last manifesto, which didn't go down too well. You're proposing people selling their houses to pay for their care, but this time you've said no one will sell their care. And I'm just going to read a bit out. Boris Johnson promises to fix the crisis in adult social care, but the manifesto contains little more than guiding principles. Is there any view on how we can tackle social care for the Conservatives?
Well, yes, this is the most expensive thing that is facing us, I believe, in society at the moment. I'm not an expert on it, but there are three things there. There is a cash injection into social care, that's for certain. And by the way, it's not enough to solve the problem. But there is also a proposal that this must be a cross-party discussion, and I do agree. I totally agree with this. This is not something that can be left to some kind of a short-term political advantage. It must be a cross-party discussion that's got a long-term, solid potential going forwards, and we've proposed that. And that will mean us listening to other parties and other parties listening to us and coming to a cross-party solution which can take us on.
So your proposal is that we haven't got a proposal, but what we want to do is
Yeah.
set up a cross-party committee
Exactly.
or something,
A commission.
a commission,
Commission.
and everyone needs to agree
Yeah.
on that. What happens if the other parties don't agree, or all the parties can't agree? Is there something that you will put together, or are we going to go into the next election and then you're going to tell us what's going to happen?
No, we are going to inject money into that, although we haven't given the full details, given the fact that it's a snap election, it's winter, the full policy details haven't come. But I have personally written to Downing Street and lobbied. And one of the things that, yes, in the long term, we need to have a cross-party consensus on this. This is so important, and parties will have to come together in the best interest of the British people. However, in the short term and in the medium term, there has to be an injection of money. But also what we need to look at is how social care is organised at the moment. It should not be lumped together with NHS. It needs to be separated. We need to have better facilities out there in the community, matrons and carers able to look after people in their own homes, and so empower people to live in their own homes with better facilities, care, wraparound care 24 hours where that's needed. So it's looking at what we have in the community and how we can strengthen that community support, and also where there are families who are carers. I know many families who give carers the support to do that. They shouldn't feel that they have to, but where they want to do it, they should be given that support. So it needs to be a holistic approach. It can't be just, let's build a whole lot of care homes and put our people in there. No, the fact of the matter is medicine has advanced, people are living longer, and what we want to do is empower and enable them to live in their own homes, but make sure the home environment is safe and that they have the right and appropriate care for them to live a life of dignity. That's what we want. All of us want that.
Okay. Well, linked to elderly people, you're also proposing to keep the triple lock on the state pension. So pensions will rise by at least 2.5% per year. Is that something that you all agree on?
Yes.
And the same with the winter fuel payments will be
Yes.
protected, as well as the bus passes, and we all totally buy into that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And you have another triple lock about tax rises on incomes. What's that
Yeah,
triple
so
lock?
the triple lock is there will be no rise in tax, national insurance, and VAT. And we've been able to do that.
As well, isn't it?
I mean,
Yeah.
that will generally help the small businesses, especially in our communities, because they thrive on our high streets, thrive on that. I know there's a lot of, we are all guilty of that we do a lot of online shopping, but actually to go out and buy from our high street, there's nothing comparable to that. So we need to make sure that our businesses are flourishing in our communities, and that's why, under the Conservative government, we are a stronger economy.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a local cheese shop the other day, and he said, I pay corporation tax now. If it's raised by the Labour Party want to raise corporation tax to 24%, then 26%. If it's raised like that, will I survive? Probably. But it will take out the incentive. It will take out the incentive for me to put the energy into this business. Okay, and that's what it will do. So that will close businesses. It's as simple as
So
that.
our record is, in 2010, corporation tax was 28%. We've taken it down to 19%. And once we are beyond Brexit, we will aim, as a low tax party, we will aim to reduce that more, because my family are all in business, and that's so important, because at the moment what happens with corporation tax and rates as well is another thing I want to talk about, is business rates are based on the value of the building rather than on the turnover of the actual business. And that really penalises SME businesses. And that's something our party is looking into, and we will be coming forward with a policy.
But already there's 14 billion pounds that the Conservative government has put into tax relief. So this is why, a number of businesses are not paying tax and using that money to invest in themselves and growing. So this is very important. And in terms of corporation taxes, again, my family is also business, in business. Keeping taxes low, keeping corporation low, keep VAT low, that's actually helping them, because it's helping to grow more businesses, which means that more taxes are being collected, and it is helping public services like the NHS.
I want to give actual living
If
examples.
I can stop you on that bit, we're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll take some of the examples. So viewers, do stay tuned in with us after the break. There should be a number on the bottom of the screen if you want to join in this conversation, you want to ask our guests some questions or get some understanding on the manifesto, or maybe you've heard something and you want to clarify. Please do give us a call in and ask your question. Stay with us, and we'll see you shortly. Hello viewers, and welcome back to the final part of the Tonight Show with Afzal Akram. Today we're going through the Conservative Party manifesto. We've discussed a number of topics. We've got a short time left, so I'm going to move straight into it. And I'm going to come to you, Julian, once again, if I may. Immigration. We haven't touched on immigration. I know, Nashaba, you were talking a little bit about points-based system. Tell our viewers, how is your immigration policy going to impact them?
Okay, right. Well, first of all, this myth that somehow Brexit is about sort of closing the door. Of course, it's not. And this country welcomes immigrants. It thrives in immigration. It's a kind of, I call it the rain that makes this wonderfully diverse nation flourish. But the point is that once we've left the European Union, there will be everyone coming into the country will be on an equal footing. There'll be no preference for somebody from the EU as there would be for somebody from India or from Pakistan, from Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. It will be the same, and it will be a question about the question that will be asked was, what have you got to offer the country? And so we will move to an Australian points-based system, which is complicated, and it will assess
Explain to us what that is.
Well, a points-based system it assesses skills, and it assesses what you can do, what you will be able to do, and of course it looks very carefully at if you've actually already got a job, if you actually got a job offer. This is actually a vital thing. But the point is it will be open to the world. The country will be actually opening up to the world and to the whole world. I mean, that's really where it is. Yeah. And more to the point is that we will not have a special net target for immigration, and that's gone, because it really can't be. But it fluctuates, and
you've never met it anyway, have you? So.
Well, the needs fluctuate, and it's something that if you impose it, then you put yourself in a constraint where you don't need to be.
And is this going to affect the students? Because we are well known for education worldwide.
Absolutely.
And over the past so many years, it's been very difficult for students to come in to study. Will Brexit enable the student population to come in bigger numbers than what they are maybe now in order to get education from here?
Well, there's nothing in our manifesto which says anything that we want to limit the number of students coming in. We love students coming for two reasons. One of them, we love them to come in and studying to our institutions, but we also love it that they go out of the country when they go back home, and they go out with the kind of values and the educational values that we have here.
Actually, Julian, if I may, I think the issue's also been about the students who've come in who then have to leave, but we are also giving them 2 years, up to 2 years to work. So that's also helping not us, but them as well, which is new in our manifesto.
So they get 2 years actually after being a student here to get a job, and if they've got a job, they can continue staying here.
Okay, so once they've graduated,
they've got 2 years
they've
to
got
find
2
a
years
job.
to find a job, and if they
Absolutely.
find a job, they can stay. If not, then they have to go back to where they
absolutely.
came from. 2 years is quite a long time, actually.
That's a very fair time indeed.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that
But it
one.
can take that long.
Something you learn every day, so I picked up something today as well. Okay, let's move on. We're running out of time. Climate change. Nishaba, you know, the party has said that they want to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050.
Yeah.
Is that realistic?
It is, because as a scientist myself, I go on by the numbers. Now, there are 15,000 climate scientists who have come up with that number and said this is a target that we can reach. And obviously, we want to tell the public that we want to reach that, and we can reach it. We are, in fact, on target of reaching that. Out of all the G7 countries, we have cut our carbon emission rate faster than any other G7, whilst at the same time growing our economy. So it is very, very, you know, rewarding for us. We do realise there is a climate emergency, and we are working towards that. Not only that, but within our manifesto, we are reducing our carbon footprint by saying that we will be planting 30 million more trees. Now, I'll give you an example of Ryanair. Since 19th of November, they've already started doing that not only reducing their carbon emissions, so every time there is a flight, they are growing trees. It's a step in the right direction.
So you're saying 30 million trees?
Per year.
Yeah. One of the other parties is saying 2 billion. Why only 30 million?
Well, again, we're being realistic. You know, where are they going to plant the trees? Our population is growing. We have to, you know, juggle our population as well as be realistic. If we grew 2 billion trees every year, we might as well be Amazon rainforest.
It's actually 2 billion over the 5 years, to be fair to them. But
Can I add to that? If you look at our record, we were one of the first countries in the G7 to ban plastic bags. We are growing in terms of the trees, but also if you look at our coral reef, wherever we are, both Britain and the allied countries, we're increasing the coral reef, and that also helps the carbon emissions. And so we are already doing those things, as well as, you know, we're banning microbeads in the oceans. And so we've led that, and I think those are all those things that add to that. And I think the climate and environment is really important. If you look at our name, we are conservatives. We want to conserve our country and our planet to hand it over to our next generation. And that's why we have a realistic target rather than an electioneering target.
And not only that, our own logo is a tree. So that goes to show, you know, we are very, very green. Not only that, but, you know, in 2015, when the Paris Climate Agreement was, we were pioneering that, and we are trying to make sure that all the countries are actually, you know, adhering to that. So we're proud of that.
This is absolutely the key thing. I mean, we've become an absolute leader in wind technology, in electricity produced by wind, which is great. But, you know, we produce 1% of the world's carbon. You know, the carbon output of China and America and India, of course, we're dwarf, you know, it's much, much bigger. So our job is not only to work in the UK, but to project that ethos and project that expertise throughout the world.
I'm glad you said that, because if I was in China or India or Nigeria or Brazil, what I call the next lot of developing countries, if you like, I would be saying, well, you guys have polluted the planet and look where you've achieved. Why can't we do the same? Why do we need to make cutbacks? So what are you going to do for those countries in order to help keep their development going, but at the same time maybe incentivize them in order to cut back on emissions? We're
going to share our science and technology. We're going to project that knowledge and expertise throughout the world. And there's no reason why. I mean, there's no reason why. Why do you think China doesn't want to destroy the planet?
Also through DFID, our International Development Plan. So we stick to our, if you like, International Development Fund, and we work with those countries to help them also take up green technology such as wind turbines and reduce their pollution through that. So both through campaigning and through actual helping with funds, we want to achieve that, because it's a teamwork.
And within our manifesto, we're also pledging extra money for research and development on how we can become more eco-friendly. And this is something, you know, being United Great Britain, we can influence 53 other Commonwealth countries. So we are the leaders in that, and we want to retain that position and also help share that, because it is often the poorer countries that have the most effect for climate change.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to education. I'm a father, got young children at school, and I hear lots of other stories as well about schools not having enough money and teachers asking parents to pay and so on. What are you going to be doing for education?
So if you look at our manifesto, we have pledged £14 billion for education. There will be a pay rise for teachers and associated assistant teachers as well. And secondary school per pupil funding will be increased to 5,000, and primary school per pupil funding to 4,000. And so that's our that's our manifesto pledge, because like you, I'm a parent, and education is absolutely pivotal for us, because it's through education that you can break the poverty cycle. But not just education itself in terms of secondary and primary school funding, we also have the Youth Investment Fund, which is £500 million. So we want to help our youth as well, and put money back into our youth services and other services that will help the youth get involved, and into initiatives like apprenticeships and so forth, working with businesses. We've always been very good at working with businesses and getting them to provide apprentices, so that young people, whether they're in a vocation or in education, they can go and get some experience and then tap into the job market. So it's all one package.
And fantastic starting salaries for teachers at 30,000 to make that an attractive profession.
Is that for recruiting new teachers?
Yes, new teacher starting salary at 30,000, which is absolutely what we need to do to make people want to go into the profession of teaching.
Okay. Childcare places. I'm going to link to young people. What's your policy on helping people with childcare?
Well, since we've been with government, we've increased childcare places, and we will continue to do that.
I mean, not only that, we are the ones as Conservative government, when the children, for 3 to 4 year olds, we've increased the numbers, and now in fact people on lower incomes at the age of 2, they're getting more hours for childcare. So it is our government who's actually pledged all of this, and we will continue to do so.
But also, if you look at the national living wage, we introduced the national living, or we increased it, and we're going to increase it further. By 2022, it will go to £10.50. So all of those things add up.
Okay, I'm going to try and move a little bit rapid through. We're coming towards the end of the programme. Student finances, student fees.
Student fees at university, yes, we are going to look at those rates of interest on student loans. We know that
I believe they're 6% at the moment.
they are 6%. That is expensive, and we're going to look at that, and we're going to come up with a solution to that, because that is of course a major problem.
Yeah, your major opposition competitors saying they're going to do away with student fees.
Yes, well, they say a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, but let's not forget that in fact it was the Labour government in 1998 who introduced this tuition fees in the first place. We are not going to be unrealistic, and we are going to look, and as these guys have mentioned, that this is a snap election. We need to look into it, and we have been talking about reducing the fees, and this is not this is an ongoing project, shall we say, but we are looking into it.
Okay, and what about universal credit? It's one of those words that comes out, and people say, oh, it's wrong, whatever. I believe in your manifesto you confirm that you will continue to roll out the universal credit, but you're going to be putting more money into it in order to make it more workable. Any comments on that?
Yep.
Well, I mean, to be honest, there were some teething problems, and I think that can happen with something that we had. I can't remember the exact figure, but I think the number of different types of benefit that one could claim when Labour were in government in 2010 was phenomenal. And it was very confusing for people who were on benefits. And having a universal benefit where you have a much easier, simpler way of assessing is easier for people. There were some teething problems, and money was injected to alleviate that problem. But you have to take that universal credit alongside unemployment. Under the Conservatives, we've had had the lowest unemployment since the 1970s, and we've had 3.7 million more people in work and 1.8 million more women in work. And that's because we have been able to create those jobs by working with business as well as in the public sector. And that's really important, because what we believe in as Conservatives, that everybody should have the dignity and respect of a pay packet. We want people to have a hand up, not a hand out, because that does not break the poverty cycle.
Okay, well, we're coming towards the end of the programme, so in about 30 seconds, Noshaba, it's your opportunity to tell Venus TV viewers on why they should vote Conservative.
Well, first of all, Afzal, thank you very much for inviting me. All I can say to everyone watching Venus TV, Conservative Party is the party for you. They're the party that will invest in you. We look after everyone. We are the party for everyone. And so on to December the 12th, please vote for your Conservative Party, because once we're in majority, we can deliver on Brexit and actually home in on the things that are important to us, such as the NHS, such as having extra police on our streets, so we can make our streets safer. We can have more invested into our education, into our children. Thank you.
Yeah, and Anwara?
the Conservative Party is for all, not just the few. And I urge all of you on Thursday, the 12th of December, to vote Conservative for a stronger Britain outside of the EU and to really unleash Britain's potential.
And Julian, last but not least.
I can't put it better myself, but we are please vote Conservative, because we are the party that's going to create certainty, a sense of certain direction, especially on Brexit. But there's a control of violent crime, there's investment in the NHS and investment in education. And that's what we're about, for everybody.
Okay, great. Well, Julian, Anwara and Nashaba, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your views on the Conservative Manifesto. Viewers, hopefully you understand the manifesto a little bit better than what you understood it to be at the beginning of the show. But we're coming to the conclusion of the show now, and therefore you've had an opportunity, for those who are regular viewers of my show, where you've seen or heard from the Lib Dems on their manifesto. We've gone through the Labour manifesto, and we've gone through the Conservative manifesto. So the three main parties have had an opportunity to go through their manifesto, so that you viewers can actually make an opinion, a judgment on what the facts are. It's important to say that there are other parties standing in this election as well. You have the Brexit, you have the UKIP, you have the Green Party, you have the SNP, you have the party from Wales. Suddenly I've gone all blank on there, and you have independents as well standing as well. So please go to the Election Commission and you'll be able to get all their manifestos from there. But it's like what I said at the beginning of the show. Obviously, the Conservatives will say, vote for us, we're the best. The other parties, Labour, Lib Dem, will say, vote for us, we're the best. I think we as individuals need to look at what's being offered, what's being promised to us, and what will affect us, whether it's affecting us in our old age, it's affecting us in education, in the NHS, its economy, are we business people, how's it going to affect us and how's it going to affect our future? Not what have we always done. It's not always the right thing to do. Look at the future, look at what's going to be the best for you, and you vote. Please use your vote and vote for the party that you feel for the next 5 years is going to give you a better future and is going to make the UK great again. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week after the election, where we'll have the results and, if I'm lucky, the new Prime Minister on our show. You never know. If you don't ask, you don't get. So stay tuned and have a great week, everyone.